Welcome back, everyone, to Defender for Cloud in the Field. Thank you very much for your audience. Make sure to subscribe, hyperlink below, the AKA link for our channel. And I'd like to say welcome back also to probably the guest that has been in this show for the third time now, because she always comes with great news. Or thank you very much for joining.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Yuri, for having me.
Well,
It's always great to
yeah,
come.
y'all know by now that every time that Or joins because she has something cool to share. And today it will not be different. We have a new connector coming up for GCP. As you probably watched on the first episode of the new brand Defender for Cloud in the Field, Or was the first guest, and she talked about the AWS connector. And now she's gonna deep dive into the GCP connector. So, Or give us a little bit of overview of this new connector. What is the difference between the new connector compared to the previous one? Just let's start from that foundation explanation.
Yeah. So we are super excited to release this new connector for GCP. We've been working on it for a long time now, so the entire team is very excited to get to this moment. The new connector will enable security teams to easily deploy cloud security posture management and threat protection capabilities across their GCP environment with only a few clicks. With this new connector, we are removing the dependency on any Google native tools to supply the security recommendations. And all the security recommendations were created in-house in Azure in Defender for Cloud. Our new offering, we have 80 out-of-the-box recommendations. They're mapped to leading regulatory compliance standards, and that's coming out of the box. Along with that, we have, of course, as with the AWS connector, we are relying on an agentless design for CSPM. We're not using any agents to do this. No need to enable any other services other to grant us read-only access to the GCP environment. And our service will start a few moments after you create the connector to scan the GCP projects, retrieve the data periodically to Defender. We retrieve the data to our Custo database. So the storage and all of that is on our side, the costs there. And our new recommendations are based on Custo queries. So the same as with the AWS connector, we are leveraging the super easy querying language that we have with Azure Data Explorer. And those new recommendations are fully customizable. And that's a bit about kind of overview on what we're doing.
And it sounds like we got a lot of lessons learned from the new AWS connector, and we basically utilize the same structure and everything to have a seamless experience in GCP, which is great. Now it comes the question, what about the migration path for customers that are currently using the existing or the old legacy GCP connector to the new one? If there is one migration path, if there is not, what is the recommended way to move from one to the other?
Yeah, so we wanted to make it super easy and intuitive for teams to do this change if they choose to. So we will see this later in the demo, but we have added, as for the AWS connector, we've added for the GCP one as well, an option to switch back to the old view or now old view for the cloud connectors. From there, you can only with a 2 clicks delete the classic GCP connector and then switch to the new experience and onboard your new project. So we'll see all that in just a few moments.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Now, after we finish on board and we perform the assessment to then propagate and visualize the recommendation, which secure assessment are we using on GCP? Which standards are we supporting for this public preview?
So we're starting the public preview with the CIS benchmark. All the recommendations are mapped to the security controls within that benchmark, and the team is working hard on adding more benchmarks soon.
Okay, that's great. I know that you touched briefly on custom assessments in the beginning, but let's spend a little bit on that. When you say that right out of the box during the public preview, customers will be able to perform custom assessments on GCP, right? So is that using a very similar mechanism as we have today for AWS Connector?
Yes. So it's very, very similar. We will soon see exactly how to do the process for querying the data and coming up with your own queries, customizing them and adding them to the system. So we designed it in a way that it will be fairly straightforward. If you understand it for AWS, it will be the same for GCP.
All right, cool. So let's go straight to the demo. I know that most of the folks that they are here not only to listen to some of the capabilities, but the demo is very important. So let's switch to the demo real quick and let's go through the steps. Well, let's start with the onboarding experience.
Sure. So in order to onboard new GCP accounts, you'll need to navigate to the environment settings blade. Here, when we mentioned how to migrate to the new solution, you can see here this banner welcoming you to the new experience. And using this, you can switch back to the classic experience. You'll be able to see here any connectors, whether AWS or GCP, that you've created in the past, and quickly delete them if you choose. Once you delete them, all the assessments retrieved for those connectors will be deleted from our services. Once you delete the classic connectors, all the recommendations associated with those connectors will be deleted from our databases within an hour or so. So this is a bit about how to migrate to the new solution. If you'd like to add new connectors, click on Add Environment and then choose Google Cloud. Here you'll see that it's very similar to the experience with the AWS connectors. We're giving the connector a name, choosing where to store it. Then you will need to get the GCP project number and project ID. You can find those in the dashboard for your GCP environment. Then you'll need to select the plans that you want to enable. Next, you will just need to copy this script here, and we will be running it in GCP Cloud Shell. So just one click here will open our Google Cloud Platform with the Cloud Shell script. Just paste it and run. Just make sure that you see that 3 things were created successfully. One is the CSPM service account reader role. One is the identity federation, and one is the identity pool. These are the resources that we create in GCP environment in order to authenticate and retrieve data. That's it. Here you'll be able to see those resources that are created. If you haven't changed any of the names, then no need to do anything else here other than reviewing and creating a new connector. Once you create this new connector, it will appear here in the dashboard, and you'll be able to click on it, see the plans you've enabled, and from here we'll also be able to create and manage the security standards that are applied on the connector and create custom standards and custom assessments. So, for example, we can see here that we have deployed the CIS benchmarks. We can see what assessments are associated with this benchmark. And we can assign them on a scope. So for example, here we can see that CIS 1.1 is assigned on this scope, but the CIS 1.2 is not assigned yet on this scope. So the way we do it is we add a standard, existing standard, and choose the standard we want to assign on this scope and just save. And within a few moments, this dashboard will be updated with the new assignment, and those recommendations will start to apply to the environment, and you'll be able to see them in the recommendations page.
And this scope, just to clarify, or this scope is always the project?
Yes, we are here in the scope of the project. We got here from the environment settings. We chose the project that we are performing these actions on. So all of these actions will apply to the scope of the project selected. And here we can see the list of the custom assessments that we've already created in this environment. So for example, we can also edit an assessment if we want to change its query. And we can also create new assessments. So the way we do this is we add an assessment. We can add existing assessments that we've already previously created or built-in assessments into new standards. So for example, if I want to assign new assessments on the scope of this project, I can select from this drop-down list any of the built-in or the custom assessments that I've previously created but not assigned. So it means that they're created on the scope, but they're not assessing currently my resources. And if I want to create a new assessment, then I'll select this. I'll give it a name. We'll need to also give this a description. The description and the remediation steps within the details of the recommendation itself in the recommendations dashboard. So we'll be able to see that in a few moments. Give the recommendation a severity, and then we can create a query for this recommendation. So the way we do this is we created this playground in Azure Data Explorer. We click on this link, and it will get us to the playground where we can play with this GCP data. So we'll see that we have available mock data for all the resources that we currently support in GCP. So it's always good when you get here to quickly refresh the dataset, because we might have added some more tables since the last time you visited. So here you'll be able to see all the supported tables and resource types. So for example, we can look at a BigQuery dataset. We will see here an example of the data. So this is not the data from your own environment that we retrieve. This data was meant for you to be able to quickly see the data structure as it is retrieved from the GCP API. And here in the record field, you'll be able to see exactly all the data structure, all the properties that we retrieve for this specific data type from GCP. So you'll be able to rely on any of those properties when creating an assessment.
All right, so that was a very nice demo. Can you show a little bit of the experience regarding how the recommendations are going to look like?
Sure. So when we navigate to the recommendations blade, we'll be able to see here recommendations from all different clouds that you've connected to Defender coming here in one centralized view. We can see Azure resources, AWS resources, and GCP resources all in one place. You can also filter by the cloud type if you'd like to get that specific view for the specific cloud. All the custom recommendations that you're creating, you'll be able to view them also here from this recommendations blade. And then if you would like to deep dive into one of the recommendations, you'll see those unhealthy resources, the description, remediation steps on them, and then from the blade of the specific resource, you'll be able to quickly link into the GCP console with one click on this resource, and also see all the recommendations that you currently have on this resource. Just so you know, we're refreshing the data every 6 hours. So that's the refreshment rate for the new recommendations generated. So this is a bit about the recommendations.
Looks great. This whole CSPM experience is very similar experience that we have with AWS. What about workload protection? What are we bringing to GCP from that standpoint?
Yeah, so we have some really exciting news regarding workload protection. The classic connector, or the connector that we're currently moving away from to the new connector, it didn't have any capabilities to deploy agents to enable the server protection or container protection. And this is two of the really big news coming with this new connector. With onboarding to this connector, you can easily auto-provision the onboarding of servers or containers deployed in GCP. And those can be automatically onboarded whenever new machines are detected with the Azure Arc agent. So you can streamline this process and then enjoy all the threat detection capabilities coming with those protection suites in Defender.
Okay, that's pretty good. And of course, we're gonna have probably a follow-up episode to dig deep into those plans. So I just wanted to get this overview from you. Any final consideration regarding this new connector, best practices, any final message for the audience about it?
I hope users will love using this new connector. We really put a lot of thought into how to make it super easy to onboard and to use. So enjoy, and we really would love to hear any feedback on the new experience, hear what your needs are, and create them for you.
Yeah, and just remember, folks, if you want to share feedback, the UI has many places built in where you can share your feedback directly from the dashboard. But you also have the user voice. I'm going to put the link for the user voice here. Make sure to, if you have suggestions, things that you like to see, make sure to use the user voice to express that. So, that's a wrap. Thank you very much again for your time. Thank you for taking the time to organize this and mainly for driving this new connector. I know that you've been working really hard over the last few years in this project, and it is an ongoing project, and you already shipped the second connector, which is quite amazing. So congratulations to you and to the whole team.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And that's it, folks. That's a wrap for Defender for Cloud in the Field. Make sure to subscribe, and see you again next time.